And we're live. Welcome everybody here to the Lakers Lounge. I'm Anthony Irwin, joined on this fine Thursday afternoon. I guess it's less fine where you're at, right? It's really coming down over there.
Yeah, it's ugly. Yeah, it's pretty miserable actually. So I have not been outside yet today. I have not touched grass as I often encourage you to do. I have not touched grass today. But it is, yeah, it's looking out the window here in front of me. It's pretty miserable.
It's gorgeous here. Like it is
Cool.
68 degrees
Yeah,
and
cool.
the sun is out.
Awesome.
I'm going to go
Yeah.
out and do the lawn probably later today. There's a ton going on though. I'm a little nervous to go out and do the lawn because there is so much stuff that is flying around right now. So around the Lakers universe that I should specify.
Okay.
Today on the show, we're going to be talking about some of the stuff that I said 2 days ago and then said again yesterday with Sabrina. And now we got some potential new information on the Darvin Ham front. So we're going to be talking about whether he could turn this season around. We've had two subtweets of potential subtweets of the Lakers and of potentially Darvin Ham. So I want to talk to Aaron about how organizations typically take those things into account. And as you and I are recording, Aaron, we are like a week and 2 hours, basically, right, from the trade deadline. So we are going to be discussing the most up-to-date information that I can relay to people about that trade deadline and about what the market is looking like.
The Shams Irwin. We're doing Shams Irwin.
I'll try.
You got a couple
Again,
Irwin bombs?
It's like I said to Jake and I said it to Scotto, and I hope you guys checked out both of those episodes. Both of those guys are really, really good at this stuff. I'm just dipping my toe in. Okay. I'm just like, dipping my toe into reporting and stuff like that. It is a brand new venture on my part, one that apparently you guys are really enjoying. You guys being the audience, and my Twitter following and all that stuff. So thank you to everybody who has stopped by and check this stuff out. If you are new around these parts, please do hit that subscribe button. If you are listening to this in audio form, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, preferably Odyssey. And yeah, this is something that you and I do every week, Aaron. And we're falling into a bit of a routine. I have some fun stuff that I'm working on here across the rest of the channel as well, as this thing grows. So let's keep things moving in that direction. A heads up to everybody, if you guys enjoy your and my conversations, Aaron, you and I believe, are going to be on playback tonight watching Lakers Celtics with an audience. Playback.tv/all access Lakers.
Yes, correct. Assuming my sister is not in the hospital giving birth. Yeah. So assuming yes. I don't know. It's getting close. So yes. Shout out to my sister.
I will be there.
Yes.
Maybe Aaron, probably Raj, probably Shah, probably Rome. And then after the game, Raj and I are going to be live here in the lounge breaking down what we saw from the Lakers and Celtics. All right. With all of that homework done behind us.
Yes.
Jack Gingras is wondering, what are the chances Vando starts tonight?
Oh, this is off of a question from Twitter, or excuse me, X. Okay.
I don't have enough on this to report it definitively, but there is some momentum behind Vando potentially starting and there being a lineup change in the near future. Now, again, just like I said last time, this is something that changes over the course of the day sometimes. So I am not reporting this. I'm saying that there is a chance, do the Dumb and Dumber thing. So you're saying there's a chance that the Lakers will roll out the lineup that started last year en route to the Western Conference Finals. And that actually is where I kind of wanted to start here, Aaron.
Okay.
I said, and I reported a couple days ago that I think Darvin has lost the locker room. Like that, I don't think that he can get it back. what I would add to that is if he is going to try to get that locker room back, this is where you kind of have to start, right? This is where, like, in trying to get back a bunch of guys who have been wondering all season why he hasn't rolled with them in the way that he rolled with them through the Western Conference playoffs last year. If he is going to make an effort to regain their trust, I feel like this specific move, going back to the starters from last year's Western Conference playoffs run, is where you have to start.
There's a lot here. I don't know who's going to start tonight. I have an idea, and I don't think you're necessarily wrong, but I don't know who's going to. And to your point earlier, Darvin does change his mind on these things periodically, even during the course of a day. So we don't have a definitive answer. I'm not telling you you're wrong because I don't think you're wrong, but things can change. I have been confused for quite some time as to why that lineup hasn't been tried. I'm not convinced it'll work, but I am convinced that if you are searching for something and you are searching for kind of a baseline to build off of, I don't understand not trying that, because it did. I think how well it worked is overstated last year. And in saying it's the lineup that got them to, from the 13 seed to the play-in, and then to the 7 seed, and then to the Western Conference Finals. I think it is that is an oversimplification, and I see that a lot. I'm not saying you, but I see that a lot. This is the lineup that got them X, Y, and Z, kind of.
Yeah.
LeBron was out for a lot of that time leading up to the playoffs. D'Lo was out for a lot of that time. Vando, once the playoffs started, Vando played less and less and less. So I think it's overstated to say that lineup is the lineup that X, Y, and Z, but I don't understand not trying it, because it was a successful lineup last year. So I have not understood not trying it. If the Lakers had a lineup that, because Vando started the year hurt, if the Lakers had a lineup that had been successful, then great. But the Lakers have been trying all sorts of combinations, and it's been surprising to me and kind of baffling to me that one hasn't been tried. So I do think that if you are right, and I'm not saying that you are right, but if you are right that Darvin has lost the locker room, that, in my opinion, is not something you can get back. If you are correct and it is gone, then it's gone, period. Could next year be with a different, every year, every season in the NBA is different. So that could be a thing where, some off-season work and then a new mix next year. I think you can get it, but during the season, this season, and I'm not saying you're right, but if you are correct in saying that he has lost the locker room, I don't think a lineup change gets that back. Once that goes, right, whatever the toothpaste is out of the tube, it's not going back in this season.
Yeah. I mean, look, it is inherent to the term lost, right, that you don't get something back when you lose it. You could try to find it, you can look for those things, and you can make efforts to get those things back. I just think, I keep going back to somebody texted me like, oh wow, Christian Wood is subtweeting the coaching staff. That feels like the beginning of the revolt, the public revolt. And I'm like, that's not normally the beginning of something. If it reaches that point, stuff has been bubbling all season. And that's what I've been reporting all season, is that there has been stuff going on in behind the scenes where a lot of these guys are just really unhappy, even given their expectations coming into the season. Like Christian Wood didn't come into the season thinking that he was going to start and play 30 minutes a night. But, it was funny. He was like, no, I wasn't subtweeting the lineup change there. But by the way, I would like to play a little bit more. It was a hilarious exchange with reporters there. And I think that like the thing that I keep coming back to with these guys and with professional athletes in general is they are creatures of habit. They want to
Mhm.
know night in, night out what they can get ready for. And that's not all that realistic for guys 1 through 15, right? There is going to be some movement. There are going to be adjustments that are made over the course of a season. And at the top of the roster, there's a lot more stability in terms of, who LeBron and AD, I think, kind of know what they can get themselves ready for on a nightly basis. And then it kind of trickles down from there. There's a little bit more volatility as you go down the roster from there. But there's been volatility for everybody basically other than Torian Prince this year after LeBron and AD. And I think that volatility has really kind of worn on these guys. And yeah, it's altogether possible that if Darvin has lost the locker room, then it is just gone. And a choice would need to be made by the front office on whether they try to save this season in that regard. If this season is going to be saved, though, for Darvin Ham, and if those vibes are going to be saved, as it pertains to Darvin standing in the locker room, I think a lot of work needs to be done. And I think a lot of it needs to be like rebuilding that bridge to that core from last year, because it is such a big part of his locker room, right? It's 6 guys who played real roles in last year's run. Max was also there. Didn't really play much in that playoff run, but it's those 6 guys. That's, almost half of your locker room. And it's, more than half of your rotation. And, if you are going to convince these guys, all right, look, my bad, whatever has happened this season, I used the comparison in yesterday's show with Sabrina about of Gordon Bombay in D2 The Mighty Ducks. Did you ever see that movie? It's
No.
white, it's hockey.
That sounds like white people shit. No, I never see that.
It is. I mean, there was a couple black guys in it, but it was
Gordon Bombay. Is that an actor or a character?
It's a character. Well, you never saw even the original Mighty Ducks?
No, I never seen that shit. No.
Okay. Well, all right.
I mean, I know the like general idea of it, I think.
Yeah.
No.
So in the original Mighty Ducks,
yeah.
Gordon Bombay is this like big time lawyer who had a hockey career, but got hurt or something like that, became an alcoholic, got pulled over for a DUI, and was ordered to do community service. And he does this community service by coaching this young hockey team. That's
okay, so he's the coach. Got it.
Yeah, Island of Misfit Toys hockey team. So he coaches this. He's this coach of this Island of Misfit Toys hockey players. They go on this run, they win their city championships, all this stuff. And then for some reason in the second movie, they were like, okay, you are going to represent the country in this, like,
wait, what?
In this, like, yeah, no, like they're
right.
they're like these like minor, kids Olympics thing that is taking place.
Kids Olympic thing?
I'm telling you, it's like Junior Olympics.
This seems ill-conceived.
Well, money grab sequels typically are.
Yeah, okay.
But so so they like represent the actual country in the Junior Olympics for hockey or something like that. They call it the Goodwill Games. And as being the head coach of this Junior Olympics hockey team, Gordon Bombay gets like bombarded with sponsorship money and like just becomes a total sellout. And all of his players wind up hating him. They all can't stand him. They're like, you're a sellout. He starts slicking back his hair.
He's giving us Pat Riley.
Pat Riley, yeah. He actually like based some of his character off of Pat Riley. They play against, I think Iceland is like the main bad guys there, and the bad team that they have to overcome.
Why is Iceland catching, like, how anonymous is Iceland? Why is Iceland catching strays? I don't know. They're the villain. All right.
So
we couldn't do like the evil Russians. We can't do that.
I was surprised that they didn't, but I think it was so that
this is from like 30 years ago, right?
I think they did that so that like the movie would make more money around the world. They didn't want to X themselves out from the Russian market.
You're like,
so like you're not too worried about the Icelandic market. Yeah.
Okay, right.
But they like were stand-ins for Russia. Like it was pretty clear like what they were going for there.
All right.
So they at one point even Gordon Bombay is like kind of sort of dating the Icelandic like trainer and stuff like that. This like
what is going
dead
on?
Gorgeous. Yeah, I'm telling you.
Okay,
I'm gonna get you to watch this movie.
No, you're not. But I like this. You are absolutely not. But I am enjoying this recap. This fucking Siskel and Ebert over here.
So they're trying to get ready for this thing, and they're like underperforming this Junior Olympics hockey team that was based almost solely in Minnesota for some reason, with a couple like people that were pulled from around the country.
Okay.
And they're kind of underperforming in this tournament. And at one point they have this like
at what point do they win the in-season tournament?
They lower. Yeah, that banner also hanging in crypto.com arena.
Okay.
So so they have this like come to Jesus moment between the coach and the team, and the coach is like, "What is wrong with you people?" And then finally the players like yell back at him, "You're the problem, coach. You're the sellout." And they like have this, and he kind of like realizes, "Oh my God, I've been the problem this whole time." And I kind of feel like we have to have that scene with Darvin and the Lakers where like he's like, he keeps on saying like, "You guys aren't running fast enough. You aren't gritting your teeth hard enough. You aren't rotating fast enough. You aren't doing all these things." And I think finally it's kind of has to come to this breaking point between the Darvin and the locker room where it's like, "No, Darvin, like you haven't trusted us all season. You haven't communicated with us all season. You haven't done these things, and it's actually your problem. You are why we are in this spot." And he's going to have to stop dating the Icelandic trainer, and he's going to have
soda Pierce.
He's going to have to reject all of his sponsorship money. And that's kind of where I think the starting point to rebuilding that bridge is going back to last year's starters. I agree, Aaron. Like, there's a reason to be nervous about playing Jared Vanderbilt and Anthony Davis in the same front court together, because that really does put a lot of the onus on your shooters, only being basically Austin and D'Lo there. And you have to hope that LeBron's shooting keeps up. I do still worry against some backcourts, having Austin and D'Lo there together, that there isn't enough defense there between the two of them to really compete. Like, there are questions to be asked about this group. It's just that we haven't even had the opportunity to ask or wonder about them, let alone answer them. And we're going on 50 games into the season. They've actually played 50 games so far, if you count that fake IST game, the final that they played in. And so, like, I think if what it comes down to is if you are going to start to regain your footing in this locker room, and it might be too far gone. You look at some of these clips and you look at some of these faces and you hear some of the stuff that I've relayed over the course of the season as it pertains to communication in the locker room and communication even on the court while the game is going on. It might be too far gone, but it has to start here. And it has to start really with Darvin looking at himself in the mirror and holding himself accountable in ways that he hasn't to this point. And that's actually what I wanted to ask you about is if
I thought we were just going to play, you could just tell me more white people movies, because the chat wants a white people shit segment to come back. So we can't just talk about movies I haven't seen.
Look, that is a running segment. That's one of our more popular ones.
Okay.
We will come back to it.
Okay.
But like, I'm curious though, like when there's an important entity in an organization who just like refuses to hold themselves accountable, and there is that sense that there's a lack of trust with that person, whether it's a coach, whether it's somebody in the front office, whatever it is, whatever the situation might be. Is that something that can be gotten back?
Well, so there are some assumptions that you are making. You are presenting some.
I'm saying generally speaking. I'm not saying in this case.
Yes. Is it something? So I guess we have to make a distinction between what is said in public and what is actually said, right? Darvin has at times, in my opinion, at least, put his foot in his mouth with some of the things he said publicly, but that doesn't necessarily mean that is what is being said privately. So, no, but if somebody isn't taking accountability, that's hard. Another part of it, though, that is like, these are all like grown men and pretty self-aware people and have a good sense of what's going on. So yes, guys don't like it if a coach throws them under the bus. Like, guys don't like that, but they also don't like they can see through phony, right? So if a coach was saying, like, if he was taking it excuse me, if he was taking it all on himself, but the messaging behind the scenes was different, and it felt like an act, guys like that even less. Like, guys want authenticity, even if it's not great. Guys want authenticity. So, I mean, no, if it's kind of the same question as I said earlier, or the same answer I gave earlier. If guys are out, they're out, and that doesn't come back. If you're, as you were suggesting, there's a lack of accountability, and if it gets to the point where guys are like, because it's about trust, right? If the guys just don't trust anymore, and once that's gone, it's gone. Again, though, every season is different. It doesn't mean it's gone permanently, but if that is the case, in this case, I do think it's gone. Or not in this case specifically, in any case, it is gone for at least that season.
Do you think that's something that if it's gone, like even in a season, you think it can be gotten back like the following season? Because I feel like because
every season is different. And even if whatever, there's two different players, right?
Is that something you'd want to risk, though, from an organizational standpoint? This guy's lost the locker room once. Do we really want to let him run it back and potentially lose it again?
Different conversation. And again, like, and the chat is speaking to this a little bit, but let's take this situation in Milwaukee with Adrian Griffin getting fired. That's so here's how I would describe it. In Milwaukee, Giannis fired Adrian Griffin, and maybe a little bit of Dame, but Giannis fired Adrian Griffin. But that doesn't mean that Giannis hired Doc specifically. So, like, if the team was out, the team is going to be led by its leaders. How redundant is that, right? And we've seen this with LeBron before. LeBron is a huge personality, and he throws his weight around when necessary. He'll tell you he doesn't, but that's not the truth. LeBron throws his weight around when necessary. So, I mean, you're going to take the cues. The team is going to take its cues from LeBron, and understandably so. I haven't seen him say anything about his little, ticking whatever sand of the hourglass, his hourglass tweet. Maybe he's going to do the same thing like Christian would and say it had nothing to do with nothing, right? Like, I was talking about something else. Maybe he was, I don't know, but I certainly understand.
Christian needs to like, he needs training on this.
Yeah. Do you normally tweet before the game? I don't. All right. Well,
then it was like, oh, by the way, I would like to play more.
Yeah. No, then I like that. Oh, I saw something that was really funny, and I meant to quote tweet it. Well, what was it? I don't know. All right, man.
Yeah.
But dude, so is that like a common thing that you tweet?
No, not really.
30 minutes before the game? No.
He might have been. All right. Like, Darvin might have been.
I mean, if something was that funny, I want to know what it was. I want to laugh too. So yeah, I don't know what LeBron's tweet was, and there's lots of people that think that LeBron, is kind of passive aggressive in these sorts of things and uses social media to try to get messages across. So if that's what he's doing, fine. But everybody is going to take their cues from LeBron in this sort of thing, because that's the way of the NBA world. Everybody takes their cues from, it's LeBron and Steph, and everybody takes their cues from them. So so I mean, the question is LeBron out? That's really the question. Has LeBron, has he given up? Is not right. But has LeBron quit? That's the only question, because if that's the case, then, and I don't think he has, but if and when he does, then there's your answer.
Some of those clips and still images.
Yeah, I mean, the little side eye kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, I get. Look, if maybe some of that is confirmation bias, and people think there is something, so you're taking it and framing it a certain way. But I do think it's fair to. I mean, look, I'm not a body language expert, so I don't like reading into all sorts of things. But if you think that maybe we have gotten to a point where LeBron has had whatever, then I do think you do have those things are evidence. It's fair to say those things don't look great. Those are not positive indicators. It may be confirmation bias, but I do understand. Like, if it was normally, I'd be like, no, there's nothing there. You guys are idiots. But I do think it's fair to kind of look at those things and ask some questions.
This is something I'm legitimately curious about, Aaron, and you can sip on unnamed cognac if you want.
I'll have it ready. Hold on, just in case.
Well, so the front office puts this roster together, and the idea is that you're going to build off of last year. You're going to build with continuity. You're going to really focus on that for the first time this season, really in the LeBron James era, right?
Yes.
And everybody seems really excited about that concept, except it seems like the head coach missed the memo, like that email bounced back or something like that. And the only person who doesn't really seem to have it was just for whatever reason that Darvin forgot to check his phone that specific day and has missed the memo ever since. And if I'm a front office that puts this roster together, and I don't think it's a bad roster, at some point I would check in on Darvin and be like, hey, why? I would at least have some conversations with him there. Why isn't this taking place? And I'm not here saying that hasn't happened.
Well, are you saying the lineup specifically?
Well, just relying on those guys enough, right? Whether it's starting them, whether it's using them at all, because they've played 30 some odd minutes total so far this year, and 19 of them came in the same game. A game, by the way, they won against your Golden State Warriors.
The team of my youth, easy.
But this is the thing that is really kind of driven me kind of insane, because
what am I wearing? My Golden State Warriors. How dare you? How dare you?
All right, so you guys can't see it. It's in I normally have my hat over here, but you guys can see there's usually a Dodgers thing there, right? I'm a huge Dodgers fan. Mm-hmm. I greatly respect the way that the Dodgers do their business, even if it hasn't led to.
I don't even like
it. Is stupid.
Baseball's stupid.
But the front office oftentimes with the Dodgers gets heat for too much input with coaching decisions and too much input on rotations and stuff like that. But I would personally prefer that and have any conversation there whatsoever versus what is appeared to be this season, where it seems like there's a disconnect there between front office and head coach, where the front office and organization preach continuity, building on last year, doing all those things. And then the head coach has moved away from it. And there's been an over-reliance on Taurean Prince. There's been an over-reliance on Cam Reddish. And I'm curious, have you heard or seen any of those conversations? Why?
Yes.
Or in your prior experience?
No, yes. Hold on. No.
If there wouldn't be there.
Yes.
Okay.
Have I had those conversations? Yes.
And nothing comes of them?
No. So I think the baseball thing is kind of is different, because baseball is a series of individual matchups. And what what one person does, like what one hitter does, doesn't have anything to do with what the next hitter does, basically, right? They're not combined functions. So it's a little bit different, but the organization, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for the organization. Darvin gets to make those decisions. He makes the lineup decisions. And if he doesn't get to, then like, if you get to a point where you say where the front office or people in the front office or ownership or whoever is mandating who is playing, then like the coach is done. So Darvin makes those decisions. Darvin makes lineup decisions. And it doesn't mean that there is no input from people. There's no suggestions. There's no going over strategy. There's no going over analytics and talking it through. But ultimately, like simple and plain, it's Darvin's decision. And it should be Darvin's decision. And he shouldn't have to agree with me or Rob or anybody else. He decides who he's playing, and he should decide who he's playing. I don't agree with what he's been doing. I don't agree with the lineup choices. There are other people around the team that also, or in the organization that also would do something different. But like, could somebody force Darvin to play X, Y, and Z? Sure. But once you get there, like, what's the point of any of it, right? Like, the coach is done. If that's something they are not in charge of, they're done. And, you know, and just because there are going to be disagreements, right? And this happens, this is all the time. Like, different people are going to have different opinions about how things should be, even within an organization. Who's to say I'm right? Who's to say Rob is right? Who's to say whoever is right?
Well, the results would
that's why you have
Ham has been wrong.
Sure, but that doesn't mean I'm right. Right? That doesn't mean my idea is the correct one. Just because I have one doesn't mean it's right. I would like to find out if I'm right, but but it doesn't mean that I am, right? It does that, like, and so, yeah, I mean, like, look, and here's the other thing with coaches, and you and I have talked about this a lot. We talked about this going back with Frank, is that, and with Darvin a lot last year, is that coaches have blind spots, right? They're humans, and coaches have blind spots. And they have often an over-reliance on something, whether it's a certain player, whether it's a philosophy, and coaches by nature are stubborn. So Darvin, I mean, look, is Torian playing too much? In my opinion, yes. Doesn't mean I'm right, but in my opinion, yes. He has relied on Torian too much. Or he's relied on Torian too much in circumstances that don't best suit Torian, I guess is how I would put it. The Cam thing, I also think he's relied, but right, it was Frank, it was Avery Brown. Like, coaches have their security blankets, whether it's their system that they believe in, you know, defensive coverages, offensive pet plays, players, whatever. That's every coach. I do think that Darvin has fallen into some over reliance on things that have not so far this year really worked. But it doesn't mean any of us are right? It doesn't mean I wanted to start Torian at the beginning of the year. I thought Torian should start. I guess I was happy to be right. And some of what Torian has done is I think the reasons why I thought he should start the year, but it, like, defensively with Austin and D'Lo combined with him, it just hasn't been good enough. He has not been able to make up for Austin and D'Lo's shortcomings defensively. So, I mean, to answer your question, those conversations have been had, yes. But I also don't think that anyone should impose or force, or dictate lineups, rotations, starters, closers on a coach, because, like, if a general manager or a president of basketball operations or a consultant or whoever is saying this is who we're starting, period, then, like, the coach he's done. Like, the coach is gone.
Yeah, I don't think with the Dodgers, for example, I don't think Friedman says, like, this is who you are starting. This is who you are doing. Like, this is.
I have heard of that in baseball, by the way, where, like, No, you are playing this person, this platoon against lefties. This person is playing, period.
Well, your A's, right? In the Moneyball movie, right? They traded a guy because the coach was overly reliant on that player and wasn't playing the guy that the stats said that they should that he should lean on more.
I never seen that. Moneyball white people shit too. I ain't never seen that.
I really think that like movies you haven't seen is white people shit. Like that's just what it's
probably. Actually, I just don't watch movies that much. I don't watch movies that much.
Like Tyler Perry could make a movie that you aren't interested
Tyler
in.
Perry is basically the definition of white people shit.
Yeah, it's probably
watching a Tyler Perry. How dare you?
Yeah,
how dare you? I have not seen a second of any Tyler Perry movie.
I know that's a bad example. I gotta find a better example. All right, I'm gonna think.
If it's just some movie I haven't seen, then it's just that. Then we just deem it as okay. Now you make me sound like Raj, who like literally just hasn't seen or done anything. I just don't watch movies that much.
See, I've reached the age where I wait for movies to hit whatever streaming platform that they appear on, and so I haven't seen Oppenheimer. I saw Barbie because it's on Max already.
I have not seen. Nope, I ain't seen that.
I'm gonna see Killers of the Flower Moon at some point, but it's 4 hours, so I've
never heard of that.
All right, let's. I
still haven't seen John Wick 4 yet, and John Wick is that John Wick is my shit, and I have not seen John Wick 4 yet.
Let's move on to the deadline stuff. I think we've pretty much squeezed every bit of juice from the stone that is Darvin Ham, but from reports that are out there right now, and from what I have heard, the prices that these sellers have attached to their players is still astronomical, even compared to typical years now sitting a week out from the trade deadline. And so, like Woj said the other day, or said, I believe in a report for SportsCenter, that the Lakers organization and that Lakers fans should be bracing for a relatively quiet deadline. And I've heard a lot of the same stuff, that essentially the Lakers continue to make calls and they are making efforts to upgrade their roster, but that, when you're working in a trade market where Washington won't listen to trade offers for Tyus Jones that don't include a first-round pick. I'm sorry, I'm not trading a first-round pick for Tyus Jones. I'm not. When you have Dorian Finney-Smith, the expectation there is that, Brooklyn is demanding 2 first-round picks for Dorian Finney-Smith. Not paying that price. I'm not. So, like, normally, if I was just to say, sans any context whatsoever, that the Lakers aren't going to upgrade this roster in the trade market, that would normally annoy me. But given what I know and given what I've heard about like what these teams, Bojan Bogdanovic, like the fact that the Pistons are expecting Austin Reeves in a trade for Bojan Bogdanovic is what I've heard. Like, no, I'm sorry. Like, that's just, I'm not doing that. So as it stands right now, and these things are always, moving targets as we talk about them, but as it stands right now, it seems like the Lakers, probably going to make a smaller move on the margins, maybe a couple tweaks here and there. But for the most part, like foundational changes to this roster, I wouldn't quite expect right now, given where prices currently sit. And like, Aaron, these prices are insane. Like the asking prices on a lot of these plays are just out of this world. These general managers are out of their minds. And I don't know, like, I know that, these are asking prices. These are not paid prices that we're talking about here. And maybe as we get closer to the deadline, those prices are going to drop. But I think it's also a possibility that we just won't see very much like movements at all. Like that these prices are just too high, and the GMs and the managers, the president of basketball operations that are running these teams that should be sellers are operating. I'm not going to say in bad faith, because you're just negotiating, but I do think that these asking prices are just unrealistic right now.
Yep. And that'll do it. Yep. I think it's possible that league wide, I think it's possible that we have seen the most movement already. The biggest trades I think have probably happened already. Asking prices are very, very high right now. I'm, one of the tenets or one of my pet phrases that I always say on your show and elsewhere is that deadlines create action and create activity. So people are allowed to have high prices now when you're faced with, wait, I'm actually not going to trade whoever and he might walk or, whatever, or I'm keeping him and I don't get off that money or whatever it is. Closer to a week from now, that those prices will come down. Definitely. Will they come down to a level that a lot of movement happens? Maybe not. Excuse me. Part of it is, I think this season, there's been an uptick with the flattening of the lottery odds and with
I think this new CBA has really scared a lot of these teams, whether it's the second apron, whether it's the
second
salary
apron.
floor.
It's the second apron.
Well, the salary floor I've heard is also
no, it is. That is
really
yes. But that is allowing more teams to take on money because they're going to have to. So the flattening of the odds and the institution of the playing games has made more teams feel like they have a chance or it's not worth tanking. But even this year, I think is more than the last couple of years that we've seen. I think there are more buyers this season than there have been before, which allows the small group of sellers to charge price, right? Supply and demand, to charge whatever they feel like they're going to charge. I do think the prices will come down a little bit as we get closer to the deadline. But I think it's very possible we have already seen the bulk of the moves. And I don't think it's coincidental that there have been these moves much earlier than is typical. December and January are not generally, there's not a lot happening around the NBA as far as trades. And, everything generally happens from now till the deadline. And that has not been the case. The biggest move that happened before the deadline last season was Rui for the second round picks. So as it relates to the Lakers, I do think that I do what you were saying is I think more and more likely to be correct. I don't know that there's going to be some seismic change, changing the entire roster here coming up. I do think it's still possible, but I think it's less likely than it was. From my perspective, it's less likely than it was a couple weeks ago, and it's for the reasons that you just mentioned.
The other part of this too, right, is that so I had Scotto on the show earlier this week of Hoops Hype, and we talked about Gabe's standing within the league, and I was surprised that this didn't get aggregated more, that apparently other executives around the league are just nervous about Heat role players and what they're going to do in their system rather than what they do in the Heat's system. But Gabe feels like an opportunity to upgrade the roster, because I don't know how available he is going to be here for the rest of the season. He feels like that rare opportunity to turn rotation money into a rotation upgrade without sending out rotation minutes, right? So he's at $10-ish million contract. You combine him with say Cam's, and you could bring in a $15-ish million player. And you send him and Jackson Hayes out, right? And I know Hayes is somebody the teams are reluctant to bring on because he has that player option for next year that the teams aren't thrilled about. But you send those kinds of players out and you bring in somebody who could help you more likely than those guys appear to be, how likely it is that those guys are going to help. And it like makes me also think about, potential opportunities missed by not keeping Beasley and not keeping Lonnie and not keeping Bamba, and the decisions and the direction that the Lakers went in there, where, because they signed Prince, some of that decision was made for them. But I still would have preferred to keep those guys on there to have expiring money, because one thing that we're learning in this new CBA is how much more valuable expiring money is than players with even one extra year attached to their deal, or players with like a player option on their deal. That those guys, like if you had the same two of the same exact player, and one guy had an expiring contract and one guy had even a player option for next year, teams value that guy with that expiring contract a lot more right now because of this new CBA, and because of how scared a lot of these teams are from the financial and practical repercussions of exceeding the various aprons in it. And this is where I was really hoping the Lakers would maintain some of their expiring money on their books, because right now, because the Lakers have basically no expiring money, right? You could say D'Angelo Russell, but he has a player option. And they have 1 year minimum contract type guys, but they aren't, you can't stack enough of them to bring in a guy who would help you, because they're just minimum contracts. So because the Lakers have like no expiring money on their books, I think that's also really limited how teams see their offers right now. And my question to you, Aaron, is like, a lot of times we see reactions and overreactions to the CBA. Is there any kind of reaction to this CBA that you have found kind of ridiculous? Like, is there any, have you seen an overreaction to the CBA at all? Have you found maybe any potential like market inefficiencies based on the way that these teams are reacting to this new CBA?
Maybe. I mean, because teams are terrified of the almost exclusively terrified of the second apron. And so teams are really trying to get off of money and duck it. So if you're willing to take on some money, either if you're at the top of the league and or not top of the league, the top of the salary structure and don't care as much and are willing to kind of flirt with that, I think you can get away with some things. Or if you are towards the bottom and are willing to just take on terrible money for draft capital, I think that is a place where there's some market inefficiencies. But the new CBA is having a real effect on the trade market and on the way teams are building their rosters out. Is it like, is it a good thing? I'm not sure. Is it going to be better for the game? Is it going to lead to more equity? I'm not sure about that. I do think it's good that, like Charlotte is not just going to get to just wait on, take on, just not spend any money and just, survive on the tax distributions to everybody. But yeah, it is definitely having an effect on the marketplace, and I'm not sure it's a good effect. But the new CBA, and especially this trade deadline, because next year is when all of the punitive stuff from the second apron gets phased in. So I partially, I think that's why we've seen more stuff happen early. But yeah, I don't love the new CBA, and I'm surprised at some of the parts of it. But I like, this is a Lakers show, and as it relates to the Lakers, the hard cap is also an issue for the Lakers this year. And you've mentioned, the Lakers may be wanting to, shed a couple million and get under the tax. It's also a possibility. If the Lakers can do so without, materially hurting the roster, I think that makes some sense, because it changes the calculations of how many years in a row and 3 out of 4 that you're in the tax and what the penalties become. But I mean, it's a Lakers show, and as it relates to the Lakers, I am less convinced than I was a couple weeks ago that something meaningful is going to happen at the deadline.
Yeah, it's it's a combination of a bunch of stuff, and like I find myself, annoyed at the market, obviously, because I would
Yes.
like to see some stuff happen, and that's where my biases kick in. I'm still reporting the same information. I'm just annoyed as I report it, essentially. And like, we're like, this is I would love to be able to tell everybody that I think the Lakers are getting ready to make some grand slam trade or whatever like that. I just don't see it in the cards right now, given what I've heard about this market and given what I've heard about these asking prices. I do tend to think that, like Atlanta, for example.
Just pull one out at random. Atlanta, for example. Okay. just mention just a team at random. Atlanta. Okay.
Yeah, it's just totally random.
Yep.
But like, all right, so Atlanta is a team that the Lakers have had conversations now for like a month. Like their conversations with Atlanta have stretched for a long time now.
Longer than a month.
They've come and they've go and they've taken place and they've made momentum and then they've stalled out, right? And all these things. And like for Atlanta, for example, they've already traded Kevin Huerter to skirt the tax and seen him positively impact the situation around him in Sacramento. They had the center. Why am I blanking? Jordan.
Wait, this
no. The guy
Collins?
who's in
You're talking about
now.
Collins?
Collins, yeah.
John Collins, yeah.
What's John Collins? Thank you.
Collins,
yeah. So they had John Collins on their books, and they were trying to trade him for multiple years. They waited so long that basically traded him for a half-eaten day-old ham sandwich. And
ham is delicious.
I like ham. I love ham.
Ham sandwich is a good sandwich.
Not thrilled with Ham the coach, but like I love ham in like sandwiches.
A ham sandwich is a good sandwich.
Yeah,
no mayonnaise.
But like
no mayonnaise.
Half-eaten and a day old.
Why does it have to be half-eaten and a day old? Can it be either?
Well, that's what they gave up. That's what Utah gave up to get him.
That's what they got. Yeah, that was just a straight salary dump. Yes.
Yeah, and so like from Atlanta's
By the way, he's
perspective here. What's that?
He's been good in Utah now that they're playing him at center. He's been good.
Yeah, he's always been a good player. Anyway, but so like they lose both of those guys, two like legitimate positive impact players, for like very, very, very little.
They have not received any benefit from it yet. There's like draft capital that hasn't happened yet, but they have not received anything positive for their roster yet.
Right. And like if I'm Atlanta and I've made those two mistakes with those two players by, in Huerter's case, trading him a little too early just for salary to get under the salary tax, or in Collins' case, trading him way too late and giving him up for basically nothing. Like, I know that there are some concerns about bringing on D'Angelo Russell and pairing him with Trae Young. And I know that there are some concerns, like the Hawks picked Bufkin over Hood Schifino for a reason, right? They really like Bufkin, and he's been better this year as a rookie than Hood Schifino has been. But, I
guess. I guess
one guy has actually played more than the other.
Yes, that's fair. But like, Bufkin has not done a ton either.
I think I just saw him put up 40 points the other night in a G League game.
Okay. How you might be able to average 15 in a G League.
The only I could not. But like you say that Fino has not done those kinds of things in even the G League. But so the reason I'm saying all of this is because, like, yeah, sure, it's not Austin Reeves, and they're demanding they've been very adamant about getting Austin Reeves in a DeJounte Murray trade. And I understand why. It's the best thing that the Lakers have to offer here. But if my choice is getting Austin Reeves back for DeJounte Murray, or getting nothing and eventually trading DeJounte Murray for pennies on the dollar when I'm up against the luxury tax, and my ownership is telling us that we absolutely have to get under the luxury tax, my choice would be taking on D'Angelo Russell, getting Hood Schifino, getting that 29 first, and being okay with it. And yeah, that is something that they'll look at again as we get closer to the deadline. But it's crazy to me how stubborn all of these GMs tend to be, and how all of them wind up regretting it down the road. Where Van Vliet leaves Toronto for nothing. They trade Pascal Siakam for technically 3 first-round picks or whatever, but none of them are going to be any good. And OG Anunoby goes, and I don't think they got any first-round capital for him either. So like
they didn't, but they got 2 real NBA players, but they did not.
They did, sure.
There was no first-round pick in that deal.
But remember, like for a while there, the expectation when they traded OG Anunoby was going to be multiple first-round picks, good first-round picks.
They got offered 3 first-round picks for him last year.
And Bojan, right? The Pistons sat on Bojan last year and turned down multiple first-round picks for him. And I don't know. I just feel like, to me, the market inefficiency that we've seen here from managers of teams that are clearly not going anywhere is being concise, being deliberate, and making that tough call while the offer is what it is, even if it isn't the perfect offer, because we know that those offers fall off of a cliff the longer that you wait on these things. That to me, and again, this is where my own biases are impacting my analysis, because I would like to see the Lakers with DeJounte Murray, but to me, the data here supports the findings that the longer that you wait in all of these cases, the worse those offers are going to get. And don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And yeah, I think when I look at all of the asking prices for a lot of these sellers, that's been my takeaway, is that like Danny Ainge has fooled a whole bunch of people into thinking that they can get like the moon for even at like an okay role player. Because like Dorian Finney-Smith is good, but he's not incredible. You trade multiple first-round picks for incredible players. Like Bojan Bogdanovic is good, but he's not freaking great. I moved Austin Reeves for a great player. DeJounte Murray is good, but you're getting an okay stand-in in D'Angelo Russell, who like is capable of runs that we just saw him go on recently. And the longer that you hold off on these decisions, these tougher decisions, granted, the worse that return winds up being. All right, my last
one thing as it relates to Atlanta, I think, I'm gonna not be specific here, but I think one of the complicating factors in Atlanta negotiations is the person that you just mentioned, they traded for him pretty recently and gave up a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And so them just kind of like admitting that was a bad move versus what can they get back for him at this point, I think is a complicating factor in this as well.
Yeah. You don't want to take that L, when it's like when the previous what the previous price is right there, you don't want to immediately turn around and
yesterday's price is not today's price.
But that's my point though, Aaron, isn't it? Like the longer that you wait on these things, like the Spurs, I'm sure, are thrilled that they traded Murray when they did, right? Like I'm sure, like the Jazz are thrilled that they traded Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert when they did. And the longer that these general managers sit on these like decent assets, like good to decent assets, the worse that return inevitably becomes. And like these asking prices right now are just ludicrous. It just doesn't make any sense to me, especially given how quickly and how steep that drop off is. And maybe these teams have decided that they would rather watch a player walk for nothing than take on longer term money because of this new CBA. Altogether fair reasoning or whatever. But to me, you do that, and yeah, you don't have that longer term money on your books, but that longer term money eventually expires, and you can turn that expiring money into further assets also down the line after you get your initial return on the player that you trade now. So I don't know. I've just been really frustrated with how I've heard all of these GMs are kind of conducting their business right now, because it just doesn't make any real sense to me.
So I think the one thing that the CBA has done is change the calculation on salary slots, right? Like,
Mhm.
we've been talking about D'Lo, but when D'Lo or when KD left the Warriors, I don't know how I don't know how Bob Myers did this, but he convinced KD to agree to a sign and trade, and the Warriors got D'Lo back. And the reason they did that was not because they wanted D'Lo, it was because they wanted to keep the salary slot available to
Yeah.
them, which they then used to trade for Wiggins and the pick that became Kuminga. And they're facing it this year again with, they traded Jordan Poole for CP3 because CP3 is, well, he's not expiring, but he's non-guaranteed for next year. And so the question is, are they going to trade CP3 for more longer term money just to keep that salary spot available to them? Because if CP3 walks, then that vanishes and they cannot replace that, whatever it is, 30 something $million. So I do think that is a calculation. You're talking about how teams are hesitant to even take on like a second year of money, and with a player option or with whatever. I do think that has been a consequence, or maybe unintended consequence, of the CBA, is that expiring money is really, really popular because teams are hesitant to do things just to keep a salary slot available to them that they can do something with later, because that later maybe after the second apron hits you and you can't, then your hands become tied.
Yeah, that's fair. And quietly, this didn't get any buzz whatsoever, but quietly the salary cap dropped.
Yeah. Well, the salary cap
money.
did not drop. The salary cap, it's next year's salary cap is 1 million less than the previous projections, but the salary cap is still going up. It's just 1 million less than they thought it might.
Yeah. But coming in under projections, right? That's like quarterly reports. When a company comes in,
but saying the salary cap drop makes it seem like next year's salary cap is lower than this year's salary cap, which is no.
All right, but the salary cap has dropped in its projections from next year, that are still higher than this year. What you said is correct, but again, we just keep seeing
it's going to cost Kawhi like $5 million.
We keep seeing like example after example after example, quiet little example after quiet little example of like, hey, maybe, just maybe, this thing isn't necessarily moving in the way that Adam Silver would like us to believe. The last thing I wanted to get to before we get everybody out of here, if you have time for it, Aaron.
Sure. I don't think my sister's giving birth yet. We're good.
That's good. The last thing I wanted to talk about is the 65 game minimum, and the impact that it potentially had on Joel Embiid, who is now going to be out for a little bit after he got hurt the other night against the Warriors. Seemed like a freak play. I don't know why I would hold that against I
wouldn't either. I don't know why he was playing to begin with, by the way, because he looked diminished before that.
He needs to lose weight. Like, I don't know, like, we keep on talking around all of this stuff, and like he has so much weight on all of those bones, and year after year after year, he eventually like breaks down. And it's like, yeah, we could blame the 65 game minimum, we could blame this, we could blame that, we could blame this. That guy has to get in shape, like, and stay in shape. But anyway, and it's easy for me to say, granted. Those of you watching, but like I do think though that like I've been annoyed at the conversation about it. People are angry at the 65 game minimum when it was negotiated by the NBPA. Like, that was something that they signed off on, and these players are somehow now shocked that it exists. And B, the point of it is like to get these guys to play more often, and it has been successful in that, so successful in it that the Philadelphia fans are angry at how often Joel Embiid was playing in those games. So like, I don't know. If you're a player and you're angry at it right now, you had the opportunity to turn it down. You had the opportunity to turn down this new CBA, which makes it really where teams are really penalized for go over. Like, they essentially, implemented a hard cap while you were watching. You negotiated all these things, and now I'm seeing all of these guys kind of whine about a bad deal. And I think they fired the head of the NBPA, Michelle. I forget what her name was, who is no longer the head of the NBPA anymore. And yeah, I don't know, the way that this conversation is going about Joel Embiid specifically here, I feel like really lets him off of the hook for continuing to come in with a few too many pounds on his bones.
I think it's an interesting. I think the NBA has put itself in an interesting place with this. I was talking with Bill Ryder, who yesterday, and he went to the NBA offices yesterday and had some meetings with people and was talking, had some conversations, and the NBA likes what has happened from this rule. They are fully behind it, and their statistics say that there's been 10%. There's a 10% reduction in load management this year, which I guess is a good thing. I don't think Embiid should have been playing. When was that? I don't even know what today is. Today's Thursday, Tuesday, I think it was, against the Warriors. He didn't look right even before he re-injured or newly injured, or if Nick Nurse is to be believed, he newly injured, and they're not related, even though they're the same leg and knee. Sure, I guess. So
I'm just going to say this. I don't trust coaches when they talk about injuries.
No. They're covering themselves. No, of course. So I didn't think he should have been playing anyway. I think, though, the NBA has put itself in a strange place because, yeah, we all want guys to play more, especially on TV games, national TV games. But we all want guys to play more, right? How disappointing was it when he didn't play against Denver? It was a national TV game, and it was the great matchup between the two of them, and he didn't play for like the fourth or fifth year in a row. He did not play Joker in Denver. So we were all disappointed. And how much of the fact that this was another national TV game against the Warriors on TNT, and, the Warriors and Lakers are the two teams that matter, and that's who everybody wants to watch, Steph and LeBron. So did he feel like pressure to come play because it was the national TV game? Did he feel pressure because of the 65 game thing and maybe played before he shouldn't have, which is what it looked like? So to get back to the point I'm trying to make here, I think the league is in a weird place where, yes, we want guys to play more, and they are trying to have guys play more, and it seems to be kind of working. But now we're 48 to 50 games into the season for most teams, so a little bit more than halfway through, and we already know the guy who should win the MVP is not going to be eligible to win the MVP. So now we have to have conversations about, like, who's the MVP? Well, Joel Embiid is, but he can't be because of some arbitrary rule.
See, but even there, though, like, how valuable are you if you're sitting out a quarter of your season?
Yeah, but everybody's sitting out a quarter of the season.
Well, no, but like, if he is sitting out more than every other candidate, like if every other MVP candidate is able to hit 65 games, which again, that means you've missed 17 games. That's almost a fourth of your season. That's not like, this isn't some insane Herculean effort.
I know, but the 65 part is Joker's missed now, I think 2 or 3 games. And he's going to win the MVP, and he probably should. But so the difference becomes, like, what if it's, whatever, Embiid plays 63 games and Giannis or Joker or LeBron or who, and what if Embiid plays more minutes, right? Like, but because it's 63 and not 65, like, you're not eligible. I think that isn't. I like that it's encouraging guys to play more, and guys are playing more. And I like that Kawhi and PG are taking the regular season more seriously this year. Like, good. I think it's gone too far where maybe we should just trust the voters to vote on this sort of thing. Like, making guys ineligible is, I don't know. I don't think it's having the,
like, I made this point the other day on Twitter where if you're Embiid and going into the season that you're going to miss a quarter of the season, you can try that much harder in those games that you're going to be playing and know that you're going to take a couple days off the next day after that,
But
and
guys want to play. Guys want to play. You know why Embiid played?
no,
He you know why Embiid played against the Warriors? Because he wanted to. He didn't look right. And because guys are going to play every. Anthony Davis and LeBron James have been downgraded to out for tonight's game in Boston. By the way, we're done here. Let's.
Well, there goes the lineup talk.
Yeah, let's.
Fantastic.
You will have seen that. Well,
technically, I'm right.
You will have seen it by now. If you by the time you listen to it, this will not be. I'm not breaking any news, but you will have seen.
No, yeah, it's all out there. Yeah,
out?
Breaking news is that LeBron and AD are both out tonight.
Did I beat Shams and Woj by 30 seconds?
I think it all happened like at the same time.
Oh,
but,
all right.
There's your news, and
it will not be breaking by the time you listen to this. If you were listening live,
more people now are watching it than listening.
If you're watching live, then you got
all right. Well, I'll just come out and say it that had they been healthy, things were lining up to where the Lakers were getting ready to start last year's guys. But
correct.
Now that they are not healthy, or now that they are not playing, that is now out the window when the Lakers are going to get their asses kicked by Boston. So fantastic. All right. That is about all that we have here to talk about.
All that we have the stomach for.
Yeah. You can check out my appearance here on All Access Lakers later tonight, where we will be watching that ass kicking with the guys. And then after the game, Raj and I will be talking about the game and talking about the state of things
Why?
Here live in the lounge. And then
you know what? Sometimes teams like this could be like sometimes this could be a I want to look for the right guy. This could be like a Christian Wood, like 36 and 20 night. They're like, this could be a random win for no reason. It certainly could be.
Yeah, probably not. I think Boston has lost one game at home so far this year.
D'Lo's gonna have 46, and Wood's gonna have 36 and 20, and
a lot of people in Boston
Austin will take 9 charges.
Why
Jaylen Brown still can't dribble with his left hand.
Why are the Lakers so stupid to trade that guy Reeves? I would die to have a guy like Reeves on this team.
The Celtics fans and the Celtics front office just want Austin and Peyton Pritchard to play one-on-one to decide it.
All right, thank you, everybody,
and probably the fate of the country.
A quick also preview. I forgot to mention this earlier in the week, but tomorrow's happy hour is going to be a little different in that I am going to be
all that happy.
Yeah. I'm going to be having Jason Timpf of Hoops Tonight on to talk about the state of the Lakers as well tomorrow. So ton of great stuff here coming up on the lounge or in the lounge. Please subscribe wherever it is you get your podcast, preferably Odyssey. And please subscribe here if you're watching live on YouTube. Hit that like button, comment away, all that good stuff. And we will be back to talk to you a little bit later tonight. That was Aaron Larsuel. I am Anthony Irwin. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.